with the coffee. Are you good with that?
That's cool. What's
You
going
can
on,
edit it.
everybody? It's Bill Bailey with today's Boondoggle, and catching up with a guy that I've that had some impact on helping my life grow as a veteran. And what it's been like a year now, right, since we were all together.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's about a year.
So
It's the most active text chain that I've got, man.
text thread. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So my brother here, Lance Thompson, with the Lone Survivor Foundation. I had the pleasure of doing a retreat about a year ago, getting to work with him and meet a bunch of other fellow vets. And like we said, we're keeping the communications going with the text threads and everything. But yeah, man. Glad we talked about it there that weekend about you doing this, and now I've advanced to streaming, so makes it easier. We're getting this done today. Um, but originally, when I
Moving
have
on up in the world, Bill.
yep, originally when I have somebody on for the first time, I like to get a little bit of a background. So originally, what'd you want to be when you grew up?
Professional rock climber, Bill. That didn't work out.
No, huh?
No, it doesn't pay so hot. No, actually, growing up, man, I wanted to be a marine biologist, and it's kind of hard to do that when you're from Arizona. So I chose the second best route and hopped into the Coast Guard when back in '99, after I realized becoming a professional climber doesn't really pay the bills as much fun as it is. Went to joined the Coast Guard, spent some time on the Cutter Monroe, doing some drug interdiction stuff, some damage control stuff, just learned kind of trying to figure out the path. Didn't know really where to go with it, but it was a good adventure. Spent a lot of time in Central America and Mexico and up to Alaska, which even in the summer, not my temps. We'll put it that
No.
way.
So, like, do you remember like what age it was that you knew you? I mean, that you felt the calling to serve your country?
Yeah. I mean, throughout my life, growing up in Arizona was a pretty patriotic place. Always, just within the family, and that's just kind of how I was brought up. Grandpa served in the Korean War. Just it's always been kind of in the blood, and I felt like there was, another calling, something more than the college route. Not knocking it, just going straight college and then going into. I felt like I had to give more, man. So that's always been kind of one of the mantras, I guess, is our family, whatever we can do to help anybody else out. That's how I was raised, and that really hasn't changed. Hence, being with Lone Survivor and several other groups, and that's my therapy, man.
Yeah, yeah, man. I mean, it was definitely mine, and like a couple of our guys on the threads are still hopping to some of these other organizations, which like I'm looking forward to doing once my youngest graduates. But
Yeah,
now, didn't you end up going into the Army too?
I did. Yep. So after my 4-year stint in the Coast Guard, got into commercial real estate. Did that, made some money, opened up a motorcycle shop. Our lovely economy tanked, and went back into the Army as an engineer during the kind of economic downturn. Qualifying for every job, didn't get to pick every job. So I went in the engineer route, did some time out in Iraq and realized it's really not great to kind of be on the receiving ends of high explosives and everything else. So hopped the fence over to civil affairs, retired about a year and a half ago out of USASOC, and then got into a bunch of other things, trying to give back to our guys and gals, just trying to be a contributing member of society.
Yeah.
Again.
And then, like, during your time in, like, what are some of the oddest things that you experienced while serving?
Oh, there was a lot of odd things, but I would say, so my AOR was PACOM region, so Pacific Command, South Korea, Singapore, Indo, Nepal, Mongolia, Philippines. That's all kind of our area of responsibility. And that was always my favorite part too, about being in civil affairs. I got to use some previous skills with sales and everything else to accomplish, some objectives to help build and bolster relationships with, other host nations. But going into, some countries that you probably wouldn't choose to go to, maybe on vacation. We don't get really sent to, the 4-star resorts. So, but in all those places, there was always, just interesting things. I'd say Nepal really kind of carved a spot with me, as far as it's the second poorest country in the world, and just the amount of like loyalty, just good people. Like, they went through the earthquake, they've gone through lots of things, and you'll never see a frown on anybody's face.
Uh-oh.
You'll see a 70-year-old lady with a basket, stuffed with bricks. And I can't imagine a 20-year-old, male or female, here in the U.S. to put on a backpack stuffed with bricks to improve even their house. It's just it's a different take, but I appreciate that. That's kind of that hard grind, puts in perspective really what's important, or should be important. It goes back to family, and your tribe, improving your environment and those that are around you. So,
yeah.
But yeah, lots of wild, crazy times too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And then, like, without breaking OPSEC, what was, like, one of the worst places you served at?
Worst place, I would say Iraq. Iraq was definitely a life changer. Now I can say in a positive fashion, but for the longest time, it wasn't positive. It was stuff that, we all kind of put in our ruck and don't pull out, and then it just stacks heavier and heavier. If you don't really know, where to go with it, or how to handle it. I think all of us have a big, wide range of resiliency, right? And we don't like to say we're necessarily weak or whatever. I'm not going to go talk to somebody to see if it could possibly help. When it gets to the point where you've tried everything else other than, you should try it all. That's the first thing. Like, put away your pride. At the end of the day, it's just the military. At the end of the day, we're all just numbers. So if you don't take, some thought, start putting yourself first, you're not going to improve. You're not going to be able to help anybody else. But yeah, start taking time. It took a while for me to take time to improve my own situation, because I felt, and we all do, we feel it's selfish, right?
Yeah.
We feel that we've got to always put somebody else first. But if we don't put ourselves first at some point, we're not going to be able to do any of that. When we start, pulling away from family and, all the things that make us who we are. We're not the Army. We're not the Marines. We're not any of that stuff. We are who we are individually.
Yeah. I catch myself falling back into that many times. And I think I, shared when I was with our group that I'm in recovery. And so I work, the 12 steps and work with others. And they always say, helping other, addicts is helping yourself. And it's the same with, the veteran community, dealing with, all the stuff we need to unpack. Helping other vets helps us heal. I got into this podcasting thing to help me with my anxiety, and part of my PTSD healing, to get out and be able to learn how to communicate with people again and form relationships again and spread their stories out there to hopefully help somebody else, that needs to hear it.
Yeah.
But, I used this analogy the other night in one of my AA meetings. When the plane's going down, they tell you, you put your mask on first before you put the mask on of the person next to you. You got to make sure that you're good first before you can really help somebody else. And we can't pour from an empty cup, so, as we'll get into with Lone Survivor and stuff, that definitely helps us help ourselves, so then we can take those tools and go on. But I wanted to ask you.
I think I was going to say, I think also, every vet's dream is like, can't wait to get out. I'm going to go live off the grid. I'm going to just have a generator, blah, 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 not talk to anybody. That is like the worst. That is the worst. It sounds good in theory, but executed, like, we can't. Humans are social people, man. You just have to find your tribe, dude.
Yeah, I still battle with that too. Like, I get in those moods where, I just want to get away and live off my own thing or whatever. But yeah, you're absolutely right, man, because it's just like there's that longing for belonging. And, that's another reason why, I think I've shared with you, I got into jujitsu. It's kind of like a new little local tribe for me to stay connected with and stuff. But
that's awesome.
I wanted to ask too, like, what was one of the best places that you served at when you were in?
One of the best places, hands down, I'd say Hawaii. Enjoyed Hawaii a lot. I'm kind of a beach bum. Lived on Kailua Beach, just south of Kaneohe Bay, the Marine Corps base on Oahu, for quite a while. That was really fun. And then got to live there a couple times. So then the other time over on Ko'olina, out on the west side, kind of Gulf community, right next to some decent breaks. So all the activities that I enjoy doing, from surfing to riding motorcycles to whatever I could do there. And it was, I don't know, it was just, I had a good little tribe over there as well. So nice. I would say that was probably my favorite spot there. In Costa Rica. Costa Rica was cool too.
Oh man, I've been planning to make it out there at some point. I'll have to, ask you some questions about that offline.
It is a magical place.
Yeah, that's what I heard. And it's like, good for, there's a big, huge veteran community down there, from what I understand.
Yeah, there is.
So definitely on my list of places to hit. One question I wanted to ask too is, like, what pet peeve do you have, or did you have, with civilians since transitioning out of the military?
Selfish people. Didn't take me very long to pull that one out of the hat. I feel like I see more of it. Recently I picked up, and I don't know if it's corporate world or what, but recently I picked up a full-time gig. My wife got kind of tired of me doing abnormal jobs, but that's what I know. So picked up a gig here locally that moved up pretty quickly. And it's a part of a bigger, falls under a bigger umbrella nationally. It's pretty corporate-y, but to go in and see as a vet how, this place that's been in operation forever and just how inefficient, and I'm not knocking them, but it's kind of the lifestyle that, corporate America breeds, is everybody's just an individual. Like the amount of stuff that doesn't get done because there's no collaboration or teamwork is insane. I pride myself in being able to, kind of like at Lone Survivor, I try to create that team camaraderie, like that team room, that team house camaraderie when, anybody is there. And it knocks down a lot of walls really quickly. It makes people feel comfortable so that they can, trust one another. And it's kind of the same thing I do with any of the jobs that I do, is build that quickly. Because if you keep going and there's no communication, and communication is absolutely key in anything that we do. If there's no communication, nothing gets done and everybody fills in a negative narrative just because it's kind of how we are. If they don't know something, so they'll go about their way, thinking that somebody else doesn't like them or they don't want to go talk to them for whatever reason, because they've, made up or fill in the void with a negative kind of picture. And I can point that out easier because I used to do that all the time too. Like my job was to decide, to come up with the best warlord to work with, and to find out everything about them. Sometimes you got to choose the best warlord. But if you go in with, preconceived notions or ideas, you can't do that. And you sometimes miss the boat, and therefore the job or mission or whatever else doesn't get accomplished. So.
Yeah, gotcha. And then what is something that you will always carry with you from your time of service?
The camaraderie, the teams, like, and I'd say the most, like, kind of initially screwed up teams. Like not everybody gets, the all-stars all the time. And I felt like, a lot of the times, because I got a knack for kind of getting on the same page and the same level as people really quickly. So therefore Lance got, not all the time, like no offense to anybody that's been on my team previous that's listening to this, but there was usually a reason why first sergeant or whoever it was put me with somebody else, and it ended up working, man, every single time. And we found a way to turn some hammers into screwdrivers into chisels, whatever it needed for the job. But I would say, yeah, the camaraderie piece and just being on the team, that was one of the biggest things, like getting out. It's like, what do I do with my hands, like after, until you find that team again. So. Yeah,
it's funny when you were talking about that, not always getting, I just thought about our group right away, on our text thread. It's like, we got a bunch of knuckleheads on there, but it worked, man. We became family in just that short amount of time. You brought us all together, and just, of course, our military and dark humor helps, our backgrounds. But
yeah, no, and that I think that even that goes way back to, like, even growing up, man. I learned from my dad. He was always like my baseball coach, wrestling coach, whatever. But playing ball, he would always pick like he wouldn't pick like the all-stars. He'd pick like we were like the bad news bears every single time. And then it turned into, you know, at the end of the season, we're going to all-stars, you know, and like kids, you know, go from like eating grass in the outfield, you know, to turning double plays. So, but that's
Nice.
that's kind of helped with that resiliency too. Like it doesn't do any good. You know, my dad said, you know, don't complain about things you can't change. It's a waste of your time. So change it and move on. So that's been something I kind of, you know, carried throughout the years as well. So
Yeah, that's great, man. That right there just reminds me of something that I say regularly with being in recovery, and I've been saying it a lot just with, you know, going through life, and that's the serenity prayer, man. You know,
yeah,
what can I change? You know, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. You know, um, but
we build so many borders around us, you know, off of all these things we can't necessarily change. I mean, it doesn't do us any good. So like buck up and move on.
yeah. So, what was one of like the funniest stories you feel you can share from your time in service?
One of the funniest stories. Let's see. It would be all right. So we went out to South Korea. We would go out there pretty much annually for um, the one of the big exercises, and you know, there's everybody's on like curfew, right? At a certain time, everybody's got to be in. They don't want anybody getting willy-nilly wild out there. But we also didn't necessarily look like we were, you know, in the military either. So we might have been able to get, you know, away with some other things that maybe some others couldn't. One of the nights we went to one of the baseball games. They have like almost like AAA, you know, they're MLB over there, and they're allowed X amount of like Americans to come like guest play and Canadians to come guest play with them out there. And I don't know if you've ever been to a South Korean baseball game,
No.
but it's super wild, man. It's crazy. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty wild out there. We after that game, we ended up going to Lotte World. It's like this, like covered Disneyland. Imagine Disneyland inside. And we go in there, and there's just a mass of people. Like I've never seen that many people in a building. And we walked into a K-pop concert. I don't know if you know what K-pop is.
Yeah,
but
familiar.
it was like what do you call it? Boys to Men, but more Korean. 1 second, there might be a motorcycle here starting shortly, just for a second. But yeah, it was a wild and crazy experience, man. And that whole night was nuts. We'll leave it at that.
Nice.
But yeah, if you're ever in South Korea, go check out Lotte World. It'll blow your mind.
Sweet. And then what would you say is like one of your greatest hopes for the country that you've been willing to give your life for?
I would say one of the greatest hopes is so that my kids could grow up and do, you know, something that's not so divided. I want to see that change and everybody kind of get back to that common goal moving forward, and everybody drop the stupid issues that divides us all. And, you know, still the greatest country on earth. And I want that to remain. And I want my kids to enjoy that. So,
Yeah.
that's my hope,
like,
man.
perfect timing to have the roar of the engine in the background with that impactful
Just
statement.
started.
Get our country back. Roar.
Yeah. That was not planned. That was not planned.
It's great. And I mean, one of the things that we all had in common in our group that we were working on and discussing is PTSD. And wanted to ask, like, what you feel we can do to break the stigma of PTSD.
Of PTS.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say probably hold on here. Where do you go in the RV? Possibly. Oh, shut it off. The biggest way we can break the stigma is by having it be talked about more. And it goes back to communication and making sure that there's a network there. I don't care if it's your neighbors. I don't care what it is. Making sure that everybody's got somebody that they can talk to. And getting the leaders in all the commands to talk about it more. For the longest time, it was like, shush, like, buck up. We got a mission to do.
Throw some dirt on it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's now it's something that everybody deals with in their own fashion, but everybody deals with a form of it. So if it's that, obviously it's that big of an issue, we need to put more programs, and there needs to be more time for it to be planned into even training, with the units currently. When they come back off of deployment, there needs to be more than just a 2-day retreat somewhere, thinking that that's going to solve everybody's problems. But more options as far as accelerated resolution therapy, as far as just opportunity to try other things. I've seen everything from equestrian based stuff to nature based stuff to, everybody's got kind of their thing that works for them. If it's not sitting in a room, talking to somebody, find out what that is and keep trying different activities. You feel like you're in a slump, go try something new. Try something new that switches up your schedule, that changes, the negative, pull the negative out and switch it up with some other activity. If it's fishing, I've got a buddy who, Tim Parks, who fishes on a professional bass fishing team that's sponsored by JSOC. It's awesome. There's always something out there, and just finding that tribe that you can, grow with and kind of help each other out. So that's what I think. I know there was a lot kind of there, but there's no one silver bullet, man, that solves it all.
I know for me, like I was able to get into like hypnotherapy, and that was like a big, huge healing for me, because a lot of my stuff, my original trauma I experienced was, my first deployment when I was 19 years old. And then, that's when my drinking and, numbing started, and I compartmentalized that stuff, buried that stuff for so long that I thought,
Right.
I was dealing with when it was my last deployment before I got out and some stuff happened. I thought that's what was setting me off, but you got to dig into the roots. You got to go find the roots of where it all started, so that was something that helped. And like I told, the retreat that we did with you guys, there's been a few other retreats I've done, but one thing that came to mind when you were talking about especially for active duty, which I totally agree with, is something for the spouses and the families and to be doing while their significant others deployed. I think educating them on, like, hey, you might experience this when he comes home, or they come home, to prepare them, you know.
Yeah, no,
I don't
there's
know if
a
you're doing that now
there
or
there's a but there I mean there is some things, but it was always, and I think it's getting better, but for the longest time, when that support, kind of first was out there, it's like everything else is like a box check.
yeah,
I hate box checking. You got to like dig into it farther than, just the FRG or just the whatever. Um, it's got to be, actual people caring about, those in that unit and really cracking into, I do the couples programs over there with my better half. And it's really funny because, all the spouses are like, everybody comes in with different issues, but they're all, very similar. And then the spouses start hearing, the other spouses talk about, I mean, they're all the same. It's the same stuff that they're all doing and reacting to, which leads me to say it's not a personal thing against that spouse. It's something that we do as far as insulating or trying to insulate from them. And it ends up, blowing up and backfiring because we don't want to hurt them, and then we end up hurting them. And but yeah, I think you're 100% right. There needs to be just more options, and just that open dialogue. Not saying, I can't tell you how many spouses I've talked to, like, oh no, my husband doesn't have issues, blah blah blah, and then sure enough, my husband's got it, or my wife's got it, whoever it is, has got issues that manifest later. Just because they're not manifesting them, at the moment, doesn't
yeah,
mean that, that won't show. But I think people say you're already setting yourself up by saying, "Oh, that's not a problem I have," and then you find out later, and then it's like, "Oh, oh shit,
yeah,
now what?"
yeah. It reminds me of
And then you feel
recovery too.
broken.
Yeah, it's like reminds me of recovery too, because there's so many addicts with spouses that are either in denial or enabling,
Yeah,
and but yeah, I mean, I know myself, I kind of came home to a shit show, and who knows how things, where I may have been if I came back to a better support system instead of the situation I came home to. But that's another reason why I've like kind of been passionate about, like, well, because now, I mean, my kids, they're grown now, but they're, I have them seeing
yeah,
counselors and stuff now to talk about, some of the stuff that they had to deal with when I was gone and when I came home, and, before I left, and, the wake I left behind with, not just, from deployment, but, my time using and everything as well.
right.
Um, but, I wanted to talk a little bit too about, like, when you got out of the military, and then, you said you tried doing like, um, I guess, real estate and stuff like that. But when did you get involved with Lone Survivor Foundation? When did that start for you?
So I got involved with Lone Survivor about what is it now? About 3 years ago now. Um, I was on a numb downward spiral pretty hard. Um, I got blown up in 11 um, from EFP. Thank God we roll fast, and it ended up lodging in the back of the turret, and that's where the wad was caught. But and then there was several other things after that, but that's one of those like, oh, we still got stuff to do. Like, buck up, roll on, move on. That's what happened. And that was, that was some of the catalyst towards stuff that, that I was dealing with late. And it just gets worse. Like, no matter where you go, you're constantly, like the black cloud and like, I looked at everybody as enemies versus, you can't go through life necessarily like that. You can have that neutral role, but if you're already checking people off, dude, I was checking people off in my community. I was checking people off, like, no matter what, friends that my wife would make, like, nope, I don't like this. I was wrecking shit. There was one night kind of went through, I'm a pretty chill dude, but if shit falls off and cruise through probably about, I don't know, about $9,000 worth of electronics in one Tasmanian devil spin, scared the shit out of the fam. And that was like, all right, maybe it's not them, maybe it's me. so I looked for some things. I went through Intrepid Spirits on post. It's a TBI clinic. They're magicians up there, but did some more homework as well. I was actually helping one of Marcus Luttrell's, like the team lead for the ODA that pulled Marcus out. He got in, Bo Ramsey, he got into a motorcycle accident a few years ago, and I worked on his house, like became friends with him, trying to get it ADA compliant so he could come out of the hospital. And then Marcus came out for Bo's 50th birthday. And that's kind of where I heard about it. And then decided I've tried some other things. Let's give it a go. I want to see what it's all about. Flew out with a guy who's another team lead. Flew out to Texas with him. Went through the program. Loved it. I was a hard sell. I was mentally not in a very receptive mode at the time, but still got a lot out of it and wanted to become, more a part of it. And so that's kind of what happened, man. And then ended up was asked to do team lead position for LSF, and then got into the couples program stuff, and that stretched to Fairways for Warriors and some other things. It's just like a network that spreads. Just trying to get people more involved with that stuff.
Now, for my audience that may not be aware, of it, like, you want to explain, what
absolutely,
Survivor Foundation is, what it does?
For sure. So Lone Survivor Foundation, when Marcus Luttrell came back after going through what he went through, he started delving into the same things that we all have, like self-medicating, just feeling numb, just losing interest in activities, and he needed some help. So he'd done some digging, tried accelerated resolution therapy, and that was kind of the base as to what LSF started as. And then over the years, and if you don't know anything about it, which I didn't know anything about it until I went out there to Texas and gave it a go, because I was really frustrated with not finding some resolution to some things. And it helped out, along with, getting back to finding out who we are. It's not a box checking program, and you can attest to that.
Yeah.
It's getting, we do yoga, we do alpha stem, we do group sessions, we do individual sessions, and just having that time, that 4 to 5 days just kind of reflecting, where you're at. We don't have a lot of, it's hard to find the time in everyday life to say time out, take that tactical pause, take a knee. Where do I sit? Do the math, calculate it. But you got all that time, and you can bounce ideas off to other individuals and be able to hear what works from other people and what doesn't work. And then find other folks that kind of dealing with the same stuff that you're dealing with. But everything, a lot of these nonprofits and programs, they got some good things there, but I really like that it wasn't, for me personally, it's non-denominational, it's not wrapped around a religion or anything like that. I don't care what you believe as far as that goes, just bring it, man. Like, people deal with trauma regardless of what religion or sect or anything that you deal with. And I felt like it was really welcoming to everybody, regardless of what your background was. And, we're not trying to baptize anybody or do whatever. It's just come hang out and come focus on yourself. And you know what? If you've never done yoga, I think you should give it a go.
Oh yeah.
I gotta get in the habit. It hurts me. It's a love-hate relationship, and a lot of guys are like, I don't do that. I'm like, just give it a shot. And then they're like, all right.
Yeah. Eddie ended up loving it. I know that.
Yeah, man. No, I always get it like an initial hater. And I'm like, are you tired of hurting? Like physically? Like this, just come start. A lot of folks get right back into that sedentary lifestyle and playing video games and, not doing anything. Like try moving again, go to the pool. I advocate swimming, like get in the pool and swim. If you got spine issues, you got C-spine issues. If you got whatever it is, go for a swim. You don't have to do 100 laps, but just float tanks too.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
I've experienced those as well. I did my own kind of journey. I realized when I came home, and I got connected with the VA, it felt like the VA was just throwing a bunch of pills at me, at first. And it wasn't until I started exploring out, to the organizations like yourself, like Higher Ground in Idaho, like
Veterans Expeditions too, man. That's a good one. Like those dudes are rad.
Like I've been telling Raider, man, once my youngest graduates, I'm going to jump on some of these other ones. And what I love about, LSF too, is that it's not a one and done,
Right.
You guys are willing to let us come back. Like I was originally signed up to go do the Texas here at the end of this month. And then, just recovering from illness. I didn't want to take any chances. And, it just sucks the climate we're in our country right now. It's just like you get afraid, almost scared to travel and take advantage of these opportunities because you don't know, what you're going to have to deal with to get there and get back right now.
But it's something too, like that's the new normal, man. And we're not the type of people to like sit back and on our haunches. Like, let's go do it. Let's figure it out. If we got to deal with TSA slightly longer, like do it. Get out, go do it. Like, do not get out of the house. Vet MX too. That's another veteran organization that helps guys. Like riding is another, if you can do it, and there's always a level too. Like you don't have to, you can just get on a trail bike, man. Just do it super, super mellow, but that's a great therapy as well. There's tons of options, tons of stuff out there. And if we all do, I like this platform that you have, but if we all do, the homework and try things out and come back and report and say, give our 2 cents on what it is that we're doing. You never know who's going to be like, oh yeah, I never thought golf was a possibility, but I gave it a go because I had a bunch of vet dudes that I could go, try it out with, and shit. That was like me. I suck at golf, but I'm still gonna go talk shit with my friends and
Yeah,
drive the
yeah.
golf cart. So there's always something, man. You just got to keep digging it.
Like I wanted to ask you too. You mentioned the bikes again because I know
Yeah,
you've posted about you're involved with that tactical mobility um,
yeah,
organization, and it's like it's something that's piqued my interest that I would love to give a try to, but I've never ridden. I mean, are there things out there for
you're
guys
my
that have never ridden?
you're my man. That's what I do. So we've got contracts with tier 1 units, and a lot of these guys, some of them have grown up riding and stuff like that. But a lot of them, I mean, what's the most popular vehicle around the world? I mean, tell me what country you're not going to go to and find a scooter, a dirt bike, something. I mean,
Yeah,
the most popular. So what we do is set the guys going up and deploying to be proficient. If you get in a pinch or you need to, get out of someplace, to hot wire it, to get out of there, to ride it comfortably. That's just one piece of it. The other piece of it is tactically utilizing them. You go upstairs, downstairs, anywhere that you can walk, way more than a car can get into. If you're going into a city and all the tires are burning and you got to get through somewhere, well, here's another option. So that's kind of what we do, and we take folks that have zero background at all, and we break them down and go through so they understand everything. They're not scary anymore. They can proficiently ride them. It's my favorite mode of transportation and therapy, to be honest with you. So,
dude. Well, yeah, we're gonna talk then for sure. I definitely am. I want to learn this. I mean,
it's cool, man. I've never had. We did some stuff for um, they're contracted. We'll just call them contractors. Um, and all of them, I mean, there was five of them, and they're just super brains. Like, never probably ridden a bicycle. Like, it was that bad. But they all had like 2 or 3 doctorates and whatever. And they had this concept that they're using now with the Marines, that we had to teach them from scratch. They've never driven a standard vehicle, like none of it. Like, none of the concepts that we were talking about was making any sense whatsoever. And by the end of it, as soon as we figured out what their language was, we had to talk in percentages. It wasn't, flutter in the clutch. Like, certain terms weren't gelling with them. So we had to tell them like 30%, 20%, 10% on the clutch, and then release. And then that's what we do. That we figure out what everybody's forms of communication are, and then go after that, and then would take you to some cool places too, man. I've got civilians all the time that are asking, like, how do we do that? How do I get that for a corporate retreat for our guys? Like, the need is there,
yeah,
for sure. And we do that. We'll set up full on trips for folks. They don't have to worry about anything. We bring the bikes, we bring the gear, we bring the food, we bring it all depends on what you want to do. We'll go shoot. We'll shoot off the bikes. We'll do Kazovac, whatever it is, man. It's pretty cool.
oh, dude, then I'm signing up for sure. I got some buddies here that are sniper buddies, and they ride, and we got a couple like Legion clubs, American
Yeah.
Legion clubs,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody, especially back when I went through my long hair phase and everything, like, Bailey, you look like a rider. You need to be riding with us. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'd like, it's just like buying a bike and then taking, being a single dad's like, okay, do I have the money for this hobby right now? But I've always wanted to. And then I'm like, I'm like, well, maybe I'll do a trike, but I'm like, is that really badass? No, that's not. So I got to come out and break through with you guys,
Yeah, man. You're welcome out here whenever. We'll line something up, and that goes for anybody, any of your listeners too, man. Put them in contact with me. I'm a network guy. Like, I'm the guy, you ask any of my friends, like, if you need to find somebody to do something for anything, talk to Lance. And like, that's what, I got paid for through the Army, is building these networks. And that's what I do now. We have a very strong network here. In Pinehurst and Moore County area for any Bragg guys. So if anybody's needing anything, from just somebody to chat with to going out and getting into some new activities, I can definitely help you out, point you in the right direction.
Yeah, that's definitely something we have in common. I remember when I was out there, like, talking to you about some of the other organizations, like that one veteran-owned CBD company I work with and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that, and I don't know, did I ever send you that info? I think I need to get you in contact with some of those guys too.
Yeah, man.
But one other thing I wanted to ask you, with all this time that you've in all these veteran related programs you've worked in, like what's some of your favorite like growth stories that you've witnessed that you can share?
Favorite growth stories. My favorites are the ones that come in, and there are multiple of these that, I'm kind of a masochist, I guess, too. The guys that are maybe come across as the most, kind of insulated and defensive initially. I've had a lot of them, and to see them feel comfortable enough to set that shit down and start improving, their situation, and hearing and responding back to like their normal self. I think even that group that we went through, there was a couple of, that when you go around carrying stuff forever and not letting anybody in, you're not doing anything other than hurting yourself, man. In the long run, I can attest to that because that's what I did for the longest of time. But seeing that stuff melt, man, at the campfire and at the, that's rewarding. That's really cool. And the couples stuff too. The couples programs, seeing a spouse that has, so I kept my spouse way over here from the military, and I did the military thing. So like living two separate lives. This person has no idea what's going on. And that was by me not explaining and walking the dog and talking about that stuff, that they have no idea what, we're going through. And then we have no idea what they're going through, because constantly they're filling in the narrative like it's their fault, like why we're a-holes, why we're assholes. And that's not necessarily it. It's stuff, once again, it's a wrong form of trying to deal with trauma and experiences. So we go from, I see two individuals, that are supposed to be a couple. And then at the end of these programs, they're back to talking shit to each other and having a good time and want to go on dates and, finding that, partner in crime, I call it again. So that stuff's really cool, man, to see, because then when they go back, if they got kids, they don't got dad or mom coming in as the heavy cloud. The home's supposed to be like the Zen zone. For the longest time, my house wasn't the Zen zone because I was bringing in that lightning and thunder for no reason. Like, those kids should be pumped. The your better half should be pumped, you know, that you're at home and you got a place to get away from world's chaos. But if we're bringing it inside and we don't necessarily know we're doing it, it's not good. So I'd say those are probably the biggest changes, man. I'm seeing, you know, multiple times people have said, guys have saved my life. And it doesn't stop, you know, at the end of the program. I mean, you can attest to that. We're still in comms with everybody.
Oh yeah.
It's different. It's not one of those.
You know, like celebrating some of the life's events with each other too. I mean, JD becoming a grandpa and, you know, all that
Right.
stuff. It's great to, you know, have that connection still.
Well, even to work through the shit times too, you know,
Yeah.
and still have somebody that you can send, you know, a text to, or multiple people saying, "Hey, I'm kind of on the struggle bus right now, bro. I'm still on the struggle bus. We get there.
Yeah.
That's life. If you don't accept that, and like the key is having those tools and that support group to work through it."
Yeah. That's where, you know, I'm truly blessed to, you know, I look at, you know, my days as a addict and now being in recovery also as a blessing too, because it's like I got all these new groups that I can be with other men that have the same struggles, and we can be vulnerable with each other and real. And that's where the, you know, healing really happens. I mean, dude, I lost my shit earlier this week on my daughter, man, and like screaming and yelling, and you know, now, you know, I got, so I mean, it still happens. But it gave me the flashback of like when I was first home, before I was seeking any help, and I was like, damn, how could I fall back into that mode? So now, but I got the tools now to evaluate. Okay, well, what was the triggers leading up to that? What was I neglecting and not working on that? You know, and it was just, it was just like, okay, well, I didn't use the pause method. I didn't use the let me walk away, you know, and meditate or pray or whatever on this before I approach it. It was just like ran into the firefight because of, you know, I was already kind of triggered about something, and then all of a sudden I get this news, you know, of like, I mean, it was something stupid like a speeding ticket, you know, but at the
It,
same time, you know, it was just like I open it up and I read it, and I'm just like, boom, ran out and went off on her about it, you know?
dude, it more than likely, it's always something stupid. You know,
Yeah.
if we, you know, it's like I had my son a couple years ago, and this was when I was not doing good. And it takes a lot. Like when I'm not home, I try to go to that tactical pause phase before I respond. But I remember one night, came home, was telling my son, you know, hop in the shower, dude, get ready for, you know, school in the morning. Um, and he said, and this dude, my son is rad, dude. He's like, I know everybody's kids are rad, but this dude's like Benjamin Buttons, man. He's like a 40-year-old man trapped inside. He was probably 10 at the time. I said, you know, get in the shower, and he was like defiant, and like he's like, no. I'm like, what? Like that? He's never said that, you know. And he wasn't liking his class or school at the moment either. You know, at the time, he was frustrated. He's probably tired of dad coming home being an asshole as well. And I told him again, I'm like, get in the shower. He's like, no. So I go upstairs. I'm like, you know, pretty hot at this time. Like, get in the shower, shut the game off, get in the shower. So he shuts it off, like slams the controller, goes in the bathroom, and you could just see like he is hot, bro. Like pissed. And as I'm turning around to walk down the stairs, I see in the mirror this kid who is like the nicest kid on the planet. He's on the other side of the wall, and I could see in the mirror, and he's going like this. Fuck you, Dad. He's never said a cuss word in his life. Fuck you, Dad. And I see him like lipping it. bro. You
Wow.
want to see it? Hot. I was hot. So mad. Went in there and just seeing his face. Just all you could do is like hug him, bro.
Yeah.
That's it. But the fact that, the fact that I let something like so little like amount to that. You want to say your kids acting like a child? That's fucking
Yeah.
childish, dude. But just to hug him, man, that was it. He said sorry and got in the shower. But that was a point. Like, no way. Like, no way would I ever like lose control. Respond like that to somebody I love more than life. So
Yeah. It's like I remember those similar moments, with my girls when they were little. When I came home, they were like, 5 and 8, and what I after my rage and after I came, my daughter's 21 now, and she locked herself in the car and rolled up the window, and I'm yelling through the window at her, and then seeing her face and it just took me back to what, that story you just shared. And I'm just like, if I seen some other dude coming at my kids, my girls like
right?
this, I'd fucking kill him,
Oh yeah,
but I'm that asshole right now, so it's been
yeah.
like, it's been, I mean, I've been talking with my sponsor and a bunch of guys throughout the week, and I have had an opportunity to apologize to her and take responsibility for that was wrong, and that's not where I'm at anymore. Um, because I mean, there has been a lot of progress, but it's just been kind of really weighing on me this week, because it's just like I made all this progress. I'm doing better. I have all these tools. How did I let myself go back to that, in that instant, And I
But
guess
that
the
that's
past I would never
that's
apologize and make amends, but now I'm learning to do that.
that's what it is, though, man. We'll take a step forward. I finally, I found a. He's kind of the savior, my savior. Another one, Dr. Leone. He's on Fort Bragg. He's just an incredibly intelligent human being that's also gone through some wild stuff himself. Um, but he always had these sayings, he's like, it's not your monkey. Like, if it's not your problem, move on, like if it's not, don't turn everything into your thing. And I think we have the tendency to like everything, we choose every battle, like leave it alone. Um, and the same with the family. Like if we think something's not necessarily going our way or whatever, or like just care less is a saying that I use all the time, and it's a hard thing to grasp. And it's not being careless, but care less. So it's everybody else isn't dictating your mood or your actions um, uh, forward, because I would let everybody dictate how I was going to respond. That's it's out of control, man. That's not like it. We're all stronger than that. Like,
Yeah.
care less, start enjoying life, get out, be active, live those experiences, have great experiences with the folks that you care about, and get back to living, man.
Yeah. Well, we've been on for like an hour now. I wanted to see if you got a little bit more time. I wanted to ask you some of the questions I normally ask,
Shoot.
I guess. Because usually, as you learn, I'm a big music guy. Always usually talk to a lot of musicians and stuff on here. So like to get everybody loves music. So who are your top 3 bands?
Top 3 bands. I got a lot of them. But top 3, Um, I would have to say Tool, A Perfect Circle, and Pussifer. I'm a big Maynard fan, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, my
So
my my jujitsu coach is the same, so he loves Maynard.
yeah,
Maynard's a
Maynard's into
jujitsu guy.
jujitsu too. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he's got his own out there in Arizona. He's got his own dojo.
nice.
So yeah, no, I'm a big music fan.
He's from Ohio originally. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, he went to West Point too
Yeah.
for a year, and then decided to maybe choose a wiser route and went to art school. So, but no, that's we listen to everything in the house. I raise my kids on, you know, all sorts of different music. We don't have cable. I let them watch, you know, YouTube music videos.
Nice.
That and Saturday Night Live. They're fiends for that. So,
Oh, man, I don't know. Is that even funny anymore?
they like the old stuff, man.
Oh,
Will
okay, good.
Ferrell, and more cowbell, and yeah,
All
they're
right, good.
fans of that.
And then, is there a particular song that you've been inspired by that's like been a go-to on your playlist whenever you're like starting to get in that rut? It pumps you up.
Okay, you want pump up one? I was
Pump
gonna
up
say
or
because I
just
got
like
a lot.
motivational, inspirational, whatever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say anything from Queens of the Stone Age, man, gets me pumped up. Um, Tool wise, um, Anima was always my go to, but it's not a very make you feel good song. It's more on, you know, kind of how, you know, at times I've felt, you know, but that was always my go to before patrol, before whatever. Like that was my go to. So
Nice.
Tools and Nemo.
And then what's your normal like morning ritual, you know, or routine?
Um, Mornings we all know, or you should know, they're for coffee and contemplation. But sometimes the contemplation doesn't happen, and you're back off running. Now I like to have my, you know, my time to kind of my own time to kind of focus, and if I can get a workout in, try and get a workout in. Um, as soon as this weather warms up a little bit more, start getting back to the pool or the lake, and swimming. But yeah, that partnered with some stretches. I may not do no full yoga routine, but just getting the body moving again. It's the same thing, you know, before you start jujitsu or whatever else. Especially the older that I get, I feel like the stiffer everything's getting, and can
Hmm.
barely throw a leg over a dirt bike without warming up.
Yeah, we were
So
talking
yeah,
about before we went on about how this weather, man, is reminding us of every service connected uh, injury we got.
it's not nonstop. Like if, and that's hard to keep the because it's all connected, right? Mind, body, spirit, and when our bodies are hurting, man, you start like mentally like, what the hell is going on? We're, you know, I'm falling apart here.
Yeah,
But keeping that mental piece there, like, oh, this is just temporary. This is a temporary 19 degrees outside right now. It'll pass. We'll move on. Um, but yeah, don't get stuck in a rut. Wintertime blues suck, man. So
yeah.
when it feels uncomfortable or you're hurting, get out and do something.
Well, that reminds me too. Tell our listeners where you're talking to us from right now.
Oh, right now, this is
I mean, like
so those of you.
geographic location.
Oh, geographically, well, I'm in Moore County. So right about 40 minutes west of Fort Bragg. I fell into the Fort Bragg hole and have not left yet. Originally from Arizona. We decided to stay here. It's perfect size for us as a family. I got 3 kids, married to a Kiwi, New Zealander. We've been married for about 18 years. She puts up with my shit. She's my partner in crime. But we decided to stay here after retiring.
But yeah, I just wanted, I wanted the listeners to know, where you're at, because 19 degrees down there in North Carolina and the snow and everything's kind of like a bigger deal. I guess Cleveland, we should be used to it, but either way, our bodies are registering it no matter what. Right now,
it doesn't. The temperature is wild here, man. It'll go from 70 one day to like 19, and it doesn't. The cold doesn't stay, but the humidity and stuff makes it, kind of cut right to the bones.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, you guys are all used to, driving in the snow and stuff. Like there's every Accord driver on the street thinking they have a race car on ice. They're just dumped all over the ditches. I've seen cops just driving past. Like I can't do anything about that right now. Just driving past. There were so many of them.
More important things than idiot drivers right now.
Yeah. I lived out in Utah for a while, and you get used to driving in snow and whatever. But here it's like the first time every time for everybody, man.
Yep.
It's pretty wild.
And then, let's see. Favorite toy as a child?
Favorite toy as a child, bro. G.I. Joes, man. Like, what else would somebody say? Like, really? That was it. G.I. Joes. That was my favorite toys. That and obviously my bike, my BMX bike. So
nice. And then 3 people who've inspired you or you can credit for making you the person you are today.
3 folks. That's hard, man, because I've had a lot of really good folks throughout the years living in the different places that I've lived. As far as influence wise, but I would say, so I'm going to combine the parents, right, as one. So both of them, obviously the reason why I am who I am is just, not everything was perfect, but their main focus was making sure that everybody that we come across is taken care of. We look after each other. And at the drop of a hat, we're there to help whoever out. And sometimes that's to my own, like, I guess, demise, because put other people first. But yeah, I'd say my parents. When I was probably in 4th grade, 4th or 5th grade, I had a neighbor. His name was Mr. Kramer. Mr. Kramer had about 200 chess sets in his house. I didn't know anything about chess, but I was infatuated with the fact that this guy had all these chess sets. This game must be cool. And he taught me how to play chess. I don't play as much as I like to, or should. But I believe chess is a perfect representation for life. And how we go about doing things and thinking steps ahead, and how we should, think steps ahead. And at the end of it, sometimes you may win, sometimes you may lose, but you're going to learn something out of whatever game that you're playing and each different opponent. So I'd say Mr. Kramer is was a huge influence on myself. And then not lastly, so I got into doing some anti-human trafficking. There was a commander for not a very well-known unit on Fort Bragg. I'll call him Pete. Pete had a drive and a passion. He started a group called Five Sparrows, and it was an anti-human trafficking nonprofit here locally within the Fayetteville area. And just seeing the amount of drive that this dude had to go after and to help, he wanted to save everybody, like literally everybody. It wasn't just the victim, it was the perp as well. And just seeing how he can, not necessarily shut off, but in his eyes, due to his faith and, kind of his angle, everybody needed to be, to have an opportunity to be saved. And just being a part of some of these operations that we did and seeing him communicate with both sides and providing resources for both sides. Like, still, I struggle. If somebody crosses me or just bad people, like, I have a really hard time reaching out, the hand or the olive branch and, trying to help them out as well, especially when you got a victim that you're trying to help out. Yeah. But I would say Pete was the other as far as that goes.
Wow.
So
that's awesome. And then what message do you have for our brothers and sisters that are currently serving overseas?
No, we got your back when you come back. Stay strong out there. No matter where you're at, just know that you're loved and you're appreciated. Your actions out there doing the good work. And when you get back, take that time to reevaluate where you were before, during, and after. And if you need a little assistance or help, like, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for it. Because at the end of the day, you need to put yourself first, so you can help everybody else.
Amen. Well, Lance, man, it's been great catching up with you, getting to see your face again, and
I'm trying to work on it, man. This is as good as it gets.
It's fine, man. But it's great. It was great catching up. I'm glad we finally got to do this and get some of the information out there. If you want to plug anything else before we take off, where to send people if they want to check out, some of the organizations.
Yeah, I'll send you a list, Bill, and then you can just put it on there because there's quite a few of them.
Okay.
But yeah, and if anybody hits you up on the on the sidebar and they need anything, kick them my way, man. I'm always looking for good folks to add to the tribe.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it. And then one last favor before I let you go. Usually when I have a vet on, I like to get a promo ID from them, plug in the show, like introduce yourself. You're listening to today's Boondoggle, but I like to have them introduce themselves at the last, like rank that they held or whatever. So could you do that for me?
Yeah. So actually, let's change it like slightly, because I kind of got away from, well, a lot of folks that we, kind of come across, and especially being on the civilian side, now that we've transitioned out, certain people won't bring up certain traumas because they think that they're not necessarily on a tier 1 unit or whatever. I want to, for this one, I want to take the rank out. And do you know what a BAMF is?
No.
So that's my new rank. It's a BAMF is a badass motherfucker.
Okay.
And that's my civilian status, man. And
So yeah,
it's not, what's that?
yeah. Well, that's fine. You can introduce yourself like that and just plug the podcast. That's fine.
Okay. Do you want me to start it now or?
Yeah. To introduce
how do you want
yourself,
to do
you're
it?
listening to today. Introduce yourself, how you want to introduce yourself, and you're listening to today's Boondoggle.
Okay. Hey everybody, this is Lance Thompson. You're listening to today's Boondoggle, and no, let's redo that. You got to scratch that.
Cut, scratch. All right.
Scratch. Hey everybody, this is the badass motherfucker Lance Thompson. On today's Boondoggle with Bill, and if you guys ever need anything, hit me up.
Awesome, man.
Does that work?
Yeah, that works. That's good. I'll edit that one out.
Yeah, you're gonna have to edit that, man.
Yeah. No, that's cool, dude. Thanks again, man, for your time, and I'll definitely be in touch. You're gonna teach me how to ride, and
yeah,
on 2 wheels again, and then we'll keep the thread alive and everything in the meantime.
Let's do that. But yeah, no, I think no matter what anybody's kind of going through, and doesn't matter whether you were in a day or you're in for 30 years, reach out, and ask for some help and let us help you out as far as that goes. So
awesome.
And stay active.
Yep. All right,
stay healthy. All right, buddy.
Take care, buddy.
Okay, we'll see you, man. Thanks, Bill.